Roll call. Who's doing roll call? Are you doing roll call?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's all right.
You know, like I said, you got the B team here. So Reese,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Schuldis,
Here.
Fairley,
Here.
Osmus,
Here.
Osk,
Here.
Butterfield,
Here.
O'Brien. 8 present, 1 excused.
All right, stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any additions or deletions? Can't delete much.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Roll call.
Nelson,
Here.
Davis,
Aye.
Schuldis,
Aye.
Fairley,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Our regular business, consider a resolution approving the transition of operations and conveyance of Willmar.
Oh, sorry about that. Care Center.
Care Center. All right. Leslie?
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Scott to review this resolution with you.
All right, thank you. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. In your packet is a draft resolution on the subject of the transfer of the care center from Centricare, who leases it from the city currently, to Cura. I will point out at the outset that there are representatives from Centricare in attendance today who may be able to answer any questions you may have specifically about their thinking related to this series of transactions. But in broad strokes, Centricare has determined, as I think everyone is aware, not to continue in the long-term care practice and has sought out responsible partners to try and hand off those operations to. And the city had some involvement with an RFP process that Centricare engaged in and selected Cura as the best entity to entrust with the responsibility of operating the Willmar Care Center. It has, I believe, entered into an arrangement, or at least an agreement that will be closing here shortly, to transfer the operations at the care center from Centricare currently to Cura. The city's piece of that is that the city continues to own the real estate under the terms of the city's lease with Centricare of the hospital and the hospital-associated business lines. In your packet is a draft resolution. This has been reviewed and I think conceptually approved by all parties to this series of transfers. We did have some discussion as a council in closed session of this series of real estate transactions in the previous council meeting, so hopefully you're not surprised by anything here. But I will walk through just briefly the intent of the resolution and then invite you to ask me any questions or direct any you may have to Centricare as well. I mentioned the first step of this is the transfer of the Centricare operations at the care center to Cura. That can happen as under the requirements of the lease between the city and Centricare. The city's piece is the real estate. So this resolution does a couple things. The resolution expresses the city council's support for, in a broad sense, the transfer of the care center into Cura's hands. It also expresses support for the city's piece of this, which would be to convey the real estate at the care center to Cura. And it also addresses the mechanics of how those series of transactions would be completed. And the key details start at operative paragraph 3 in the resolution, which is that the easiest way we've determined for this transfer of the real estate to occur would be to amend the city's lease agreement with Centricare for the hospital to remove the Willmar Care Center from that lease so that the city can then directly transfer it to Cura. We also contemplate that there will be an agreement of some sort, or perhaps an amendment of an existing agreement directly between the city and Cura to set forth the terms and conditions by which that would happen. That's an agreement that would come back to you for approval. This resolution, however, in concept approves of taking that procedural approach. The resolution also contemplates and offers the city's approval of Centricare subleasing its interest in the real estate to Cura until such time as the city-Cura transfer can be completed. So when this transfer of operations takes effect, I understand later this month, perhaps in a week or so, at that time it's contemplated, and this resolution expresses the city's approval of Centricare subleasing its leasehold interest in the real estate to Cura so that Cura would have all the property rights it needs to carry on with operating the care center without interruption. This resolution contains direction to city staff and to our office to take all actions necessary to put into effect the basic outlines contained in this resolution. It doesn't mean we'll get to make binding agreements on the city's behalf ourselves. All those agreements would still have to come back to the city council, but it does give us the direction to work towards that end. And then the last piece in the resolution addresses the Rice Home Medical real estate. That's not related to the Cura transaction, but it was a request the city made in order to go along with this, that at the same time the care center real estate is removed from the operating lease between the city and Centricare, that the home medical facilities, both in the city of Willmar and in the city of Redwood Falls, also be removed from the real estate. Also be removed from the lease. And I understand that is agreeable to Centricare. So that's the resolution. I do want to just point out the future actions that would be coming back to the council if the council approves this resolution. You would need to introduce and adopt an ordinance authorizing the transfer of the real estate at the care center from the city to Cura, just as you would for any sale or conveyance of city property. There would likely be a contract or perhaps an amendment of a contract directly between the city and Cura that would set forth the terms and conditions on which that transfer would occur. There would be a lease amendment of the operating lease between the city and Centricare to remove the care center and the home medical facilities from the lease. And I expect there would need to be some sort of lease or perhaps an assignment of an existing lease with the current occupant of the home medical facility as well, but those are still details I think we'll need to consider. So this resolution, again, is expressing support of the transfer to Cura, and it's approving the sort of procedural steps that we've agreed would be the most efficient way to complete the transaction and effectuate the transfer of the care center real estate to Cura. So with that overview, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, and also invite you to direct any to the Centricare representatives here.
Mr. Scott, the contract terms and conditions and lease are later, not tonight. Is that correct?
The particulars are for later.
Okay.
The concept and the sort of just announcement of the council's approval of this transfer to Cura is tonight.
Okay. So now I open it to Centricare for comment. Okay. Who's speaking?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Santo Cruz, Chief Legal Officer for Centricare. First, I want to say thank you for inviting us to a room that is not overheated. The last time I was in front of you all, I was profusely sweating, not because I was nervous,
We
but
did that on
because the heat had gone out and you all were at the other building. So thank you for that. As City Attorney Mr. Scott stated correctly, this is support for the concept. You should know that the Rice, what we refer to as the Legacy Rice Board, which Representative Nelson sits on, that has jurisdiction and oversight over the lease between yourselves and Centricare, last week provided a recommendation and a passing of this resolution, not that they can approve it, but a recommendation that this body approve it, because they've had an opportunity to review it along with all the other documents. So I want to make sure that that was on the record as well. As I stated with you, our goal has always been to keep these services in the city. Our goal has been to do this with the community, not to the community. That's why we've involved the city and other members throughout the process, even on things that weren't required by the lease. If the city requested, we disclosed it. So I hope that our transparency and the consideration around the Rice Home Medical properties, of which I believe both have been vacated, so there shouldn't be any issue there in terms of having a tenant issue. That should be resolved for the city as well. So with that, I would just say thank you. I'm happy to answer any other questions. We're very grateful to Cura for taking on the responsibility locally and that we can keep these services in town. And as I've shared with you in the past, but I'd put back in the record here, Cura is a party that we've worked with in the past, and we have a good track record with. So we have a lot of confidence in their ability to continue to deliver. They're doing it in Paynesville, where we went through this process with the local municipalities and the government entities getting their approval. And as they say, nobody wants their money back. So it's been good. Happy to answer any other questions. But again, thank you to City Attorney Robert Scott, who's worked with our outside counsel to draft this legal jargon you see in front of yourselves tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Santo. Anybody got questions for him?
Thanks again.
All right, thank you. So if we don't have any questions and we've worked on this for a long period of time, I think we're set to move forward.
Yes, the question.
Mr. Mayor, I would enter a motion to approve the resolution for transition of operations and conveyance of the Willmar Care Center real estate to Cura. Second.
We got a second? Okay, Vicki seconds it. Any discussion? Roll call.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
Fagerly. Aye. Osmus.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
And Brian, 7 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, thank you. Cura update and discussion. What? Christopher, are you okay?
Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. If you have followed the matter of Cura, a nonprofit who specializes in providing affordable senior housing, purchasing 5.5 acres of land south of Swanson Fields, you have probably asked yourself, what a mess. Well, today I want to reassure our neighbors here in Willmar and the public that that predicament that we're in today was not caused by this body, City Council, nor was it caused by Cura. The City Administration, the Department of Planning and Development, the Economic Development Commission, nor planning commissioners. Over the past week, city staff and our elected officials have been inundated with concerns of our public processes because of a memo that was shared with planning commissioners on March 6th, out of term by Willmar Municipal Utilities. That memo, written by General Manager John Herron and presented by staff Kevin Marty, breached public process, which is a disservice to the residents we serve. The presentation was riddled with inaccuracies and contradict John Herron's previous analysis of the site. Misinterpreted the site and show lack of planning efforts by utilities to identify a future use. Full disclosure, I wish that tonight is the last time I speak about the memo publicly. I am not interested in airing my grievances publicly, especially with the partnering organization. I am interested, however, in getting the facts correct, so here they are. The total site south of Swanson is a total of 35.97 acres, according to our county website. Out of the 35.97 acres, 5.5 acres is in the central northern area of the site, or the subject area. Facts about the site. During a preliminary search of the property, staff found there is no legal restriction in the deed prohibiting the land from being developed. Currently, the site is not being used for park programming. It is identified in the capital improvement plan as future stormwater retention by the city. The trails and recreational component of the area will be undisturbed after development. Potential senior development will be connected to parks, community, and healthcare services in the area. The memory care that we just heard about to the east of the site is already managed by Cura. And the developer and the city are splitting the cost to mitigate stormwater. It's important that we go over the timeline. So on Monday, March 4, 2024, at 1 p.m., I received a meeting request to attend a meeting called Swanson Park Property Development. It was a virtual meeting where city staff and municipal utilities and the EDC was in attendance. We spoke about the importance of the well field area, discussed future well locations outside of the 5.5 acre subject area. Currently, we know that there are 2 operating wells located west of the subject area. Mr. Herring commented that utilities just recently learned that this area was determined for a future stormwater area planned by our stormwater management. Comments of a new pond engineering isn't completed. New ponds shouldn't be more than 6 feet deep. If necessary, the pond could be longer. Again, it's important for me to spell out that where we are now in the process does not illustrate or design any of the components that are to be constructed. We ended that meeting with General Manager Herron and me agreeing to work together closely on a design that can integrate stormwater, our utilities, and senior housing. And John stating that he will contact the utilities wellhead consultant to share their findings with staff before the scheduled public hearing here with City Council on March 18th. On March 6th, Wednesday, Planning Commission had a meeting. The audio timestamp that is published starts at 27 minutes and 16 seconds. The Planning Commission meets every first and third Wednesday of the month. The Planning Commission agenda was posted on Friday, March 1st, 2024. It listed on that agenda, as always, ways to provide public comment for hearing and action items. It also gives the email, the mailing address, and a criteria that testimony will be accepted until the business day before the meeting at 12 p.m. The agenda item 5.2.3, Cura, City of Willmar Real Property Transaction Review, was on the agenda. According to the charter, planning commissioners are to review the terms of the purchase agreement supplied, approving or denying the agreement as they had while reviewing the following agenda item, which was Dooley Petroleum, City of Willmar Real Property Transaction Review. The Planning Commission heard from Aaron Backman on the details of the project and senior housing needs. The benefit of the complex being located next to the care center, and it starts around, during Planning Commission, you can hear the timestamp of 43 minutes and 48 seconds when Kevin Marty provided commissioners with a printed copy of a memo written by General Manager John Herron, without the planning and development staff ever seeing it. This alone jeopardizes our public process. Kevin stated that we, Willmar Municipal Utilities, want to address the utilities' position on the property. He expressed the need for senior housing relating to his own family. There's no land agreement, and a 2012 study recommended that utilities establish one, and they haven't, and within 12 years they have not. End quote. Kevin Marty is quoted saying, "We have concerns about using this property for development because it will impede on the property for well development." I did stop Kevin by pointing out to the commissioners that staff had not reviewed the memo and that this is not a public hearing. During the back and forth, Marty confirmed the area in question is not in the way of the testing areas. He confirmed that no future well would be drilled in the area. He identified an alternate route for piping if development is there. Currently, he confirmed that utilities has no plans for the area. On March 7th, Viva Teams, I requested John Herring to rescind the memo and express to him that his staff misrepresented the content of that memo by taking a position opposing the development without the findings of their wellhead consultant and disrupted a formal public process. Today, Municipal Utilities Commission had the opportunities to be a partner, to acknowledge that they breached protocol by a public process, correct the inaccuracies that the staff members stated on the record by rescinding the memo, gathering more information from their wellhead consultant. They did not do that today. I do commend you, this body, council members, for your commitment to find solutions. As we all know, the subject area south of Swansonville floods. It is not an attraction of the city. It is an environmental hazard. Cura is willing to split the cost to mitigate flooding, removing a costly project from our taxpayers. In 2022 housing study, Willmar has a gap of 615 units, specifically for senior residents. You are trying to close that gap by working with a developer who will provide affordable housing for our seniors. Mr. Mayor and council members, we welcome opposition because we know that opposition strengthens our processes, the design, and the future of Willmar. What is not tolerated is misguided information, individuals using their professional capacity to sway the public, disruptions to our public processes. And I'd like to thank city staff and our planning commissioners for tabling the matter as we work to ensure that the facts are being presented. I'll yield my time to Executive Director Aaron Backman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Over the past 12 months, we have been diligently working with senior housing developers to locate and build in Willmar. When I do work with them, it's not a snap decision. I prepare information on multiple sites each time. They do their due diligence, and I do too. Several have been very interested in the Swanson Field site south of Willmar Avenue. First Trident Development, and now Cura. They like that location. Both are experienced developers with good track records. Both projects are senior assisted living projects. Both involved the same size parcel. Both would access the site from Willmar Avenue. Both viewed the trails as an amenity. Both would have purchased the property for $150,000 and would have contributed to the city money to undertake stormwater infrastructure improvements as part of Weiss Phase 2. Last spring, one of the first things I did when I started interacting with Trident was to reach out to WMU. They were very helpful with the information I typically need for these types of projects. Where are the city utilities? What is the capacity of the water and sewer lines? What is the topography? How is the drainage? They shared maps, and we discussed stormwater management, including Weiss Phase 2. We discussed setbacks from the trails, easement from the monitoring well. We discussed easements for the city utilities. Never once was there a discussion that housing wouldn't work here or that proposed development would negatively impact the aquifers or production wells or future wells. If anything, there was support. I have emails from John Herron sent to me that corroborate that. June 7th, 2023, subject, well field detail. The proposal, and this is from John, the proposal is for an apartment building. The activity should not pose a contamination threat to the aquifers that serve the city. WMU would not require any special stormwater retention pond requirements. Please keep us informed through the design of the project. June 16th, subject, Trident Development, Willmar Avenue site. The monitoring well easement looks good. Please consider adding a 10-foot perimeter easement around the property to allow for utilities. July 11th, subject, Trident Development, Willmar Avenue site. There is casing installed under Willmar Avenue to allow for the transmission of water from the 2 proposed wells located just south of the proposed development. When those 2 wells are developed, we may need access to that casing. With the 10-foot perimeter easement in place as requested below, WMU will have the ability to access the casing. July 17th, subject, Trident Development. That day, I sent to John a site sketch with the proposed building on it. And I posed a specific question to him. My quote, attached is a revised site sketch for Trident Development project on Willmar Avenue. How does this look to you? His quote to me, attached looks good. Thank you for the additional easement. Up until the last 2 weeks, there did not appear to be a problem for aquifers and wells in the area. As will be shown, I believe, by Jared, there are multiple other locations for new wells on city property south of Willmar Avenue that meet distance requirements. And we have a plan for addressing stormwater runoff. And the Weiss Phase 2 map provided to us by WMU last Monday does not show the proposed water main route going through the Cura site. No, it has it around it to the potential new wells to the south of the development. I would stand for any questions that you might have, and I would defer to others.
All right. Jared, are you going to speak too? Thank you.
Mayor and Council, in your packet this evening is a map, and essentially what the map is doing is it's illustrating the multiple uses that have been contemplated for the project, or for the area, south of the Swanson Fields area. 3 primary uses being the Cura site, that's been the topic of discussion. The Western Interceptor Storm Sewer Phase 2, short referred to as WISE Phase 2. That is the second stormwater component associated with the stormwater improvements in that area to further the stormwater protections that were completed with the larger pond south of the ball field. And then, of course, the preserving area for the municipal utilities and their future well development. So the Cura site is outlined in the red dashed line in the center of the parcel there that you have. The test well, or the monitoring well rather, easement is identified there with the yellow lines. And then moving on to the Western Interceptor Storm Sewer Phase 2, that's the pink pond noted in the northeast part of the site. I should point out, this pond has not been sized. It has not been engineered and designed. We did, however, do some preliminary calculations to determine the acre feet of storage that we would need, and it's been reflected in the drawing. The pond essentially is approximately 1 acre in area. And then finally, as it relates to the municipal utilities wells, the existing wells are noted on the northwest side of that site and labeled existing well house. Those wells are approximately 350 feet apart. And so the circles that you see over the paper are 350-foot radius circles, so that all of the potential well sites have been identified outside of those 350-foot radiuses. So that's kind of the methodology that we came up with for the potential well sites. I will note, and I know it was mentioned earlier, previously the utility did do some investigation in that area. The well logs are identified on the Minnesota Department of Health website for those wells. I believe those were drilled and investigated about the same time as the existing production wells, sometime in 2004, based on the data that I was able to find on the website. So these aren't specific locations. Typically in the construction of a well, you drill a test well and make sure the water's there before you put the funds in to sink a larger diameter casing into the ground. But certainly there are potential locations identified on the figure that would accommodate potentially up to a number of additional wells. I know 2 was mentioned previously, but there is, according to this, provided there's water there, there's room for additional wells. So with that, that's a summary of the figure just to help provide a visual of the 3 primary topics that are being discussed surrounding this area. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions relative to the figure that you might have.
Tom?
On the pond area, 1 acre well, how is that going to affect the property owners on 18th Street? It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 houses you'll be behind.
In terms of
Flooding,
yeah, the pond will be constructed to eliminate flooding in that area.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the pond going to be sloped down towards their house where they're going to get more water runoff from?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jared?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Reese. Excuse me, the existing storm Swanson Pond, I remember having conversations about that when it was done a few years ago, and would you just talk about where the water drains, how it drains into that one and where it goes from there?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately the drainage area is located north of Willmar Avenue, right? So all the water on that part of town, if you will, drains through. There's a couple culverts that you'll notice in the figure. There is a existing storm sewer in that area that carries the water over west of the ball field and then south to that larger pond. The first phase of that Western Interceptor storm sewer project included the extension of storm sewer to the west and then south, ultimately getting it into the county ditch there. So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at moving water from north of Willmar Avenue, treating it, and then moving it out to the county ditch. The Phase 2 pond, at the time, there was not a funding source identified to fund that, and that's why that's been added to the city's capital improvement stormwater management plan. And this Phase 2 pond has been discussed previously when we reviewed the multiple stormwater improvements around the community that we had discussed, I believe, last summer at some point. So with the Trident and Cura proposals, we've noted that this was a target area. One thing I do want to mention is the pond location. We believe it'll work in the location where it's identified, but again, it hasn't been designed and it may shift slightly. But those details will be worked out during final design, so.
I see the profiles, 1128, 1129. How deep would you be going?
The existing ground profile on the very southeast corner of that pond is about 1129. During the design, we'll have to look at the culvert elevations that cross Willmar Avenue. I'm anticipating approximately typically in our stormwater pond designs, we try to store approximately 6 feet of water. So again, that's just
Yeah,
super preliminary off the cuff here.
and I understand. And the existing Swanson Pond, the standpipe in the new stormwater retention pond, it was a retention pond?
Yes,
That'll be a standpipe that, there's no pumping, it's all by gravity.
that's correct.
When it reaches that level, it'll run down that storm sewer, proposed storm sewer into the Swanson Field, and then out to the county ditch.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. On the map, there's a gray kind of triangle box. What is that? By the
You want to know?
pond area, 1 acre?
Jared?
By the pond area, I believe
That-
that is a wildflower planting
Yes,
area.
that's the wildflower
Okay.
planting that the city
Thank you.
did 2 years ago.
Thank you.
So that can be moved or disturbed too.
Any other questions? Rick?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So what neighborhood would benefit from this pond? Would it be from Trot Avenue to the north 15th Street to the east, coming down to 18th Street, or?
Yeah, I could
smaller?
provide the council with a map of that watershed area, but it is a significant area north of Willmar Avenue between the, I guess, Industrial Drive and that moving north and east of the Swanson complex, yes.
But then it'd depend how much rain we got at a certain time too, like.
That does play a large factor, yes.
I'm just curious, how the proposed storm line down to the Swanson Field Pond, what size, I know you haven't done engineering on it, but would that be like a 6 or bigger?
The one identified on the map?
What's that?
The one identified on this map?
Yes.
It would be larger than 6 inches, yeah. I mean, typically the smallest size that storm sewer currently is about 12 inches.
12,
But the original pond was designed to accommodate this future pond in the future, right? So ultimately what we're trying to do is take care of the majority of the water in that pond and do a tiered effect as it moves throughout the system, so, yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Audrey?
Thank you. This is all regarding the south of Willmar Avenue, but the utilities have lots of wells in Swanson Fields over there. I don't know if someone can speak to that, or is there room for additional wells on the north side of the,
I cannot speak to that.
okay.
I believe they have a significant number of wells on the north side.
Yes, because I remember the difficulty with planning with Swanson Fields, that we had to work around the wells that were over there. So I'm just curious when they're looking about new ones.
I'll call on Leslie for that.
This morning at the MUC meeting, Mr. Heron noted that right now that field, that one out north of Swanson Field is pretty well done.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? All right, thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
So where do we go from here?
This was information for you tonight.
Right.
And there's, so the one thing that I would like is that there is a public hearing scheduled for next Monday night.
Yep.
I would like the council to make a motion to move that public hearing to April 15th.
All right,
So moved.
second. We got a motion and a second to move the hearing from the 18th to April
15th.
15th. Roll call. Oh, just a minute, Rick?
Well, since his name came up quite a bit, I'd like to hear what the municipal utilities director has to say. John, he's in the audience, so.
Well,
That's up to you. To me, we've heard a considerable amount from the utilities and that,
Well, you have, but the
But we
council
have.
hasn't, so.
okay. It's up to the mayor.
I'll second the Beggarly's request.
well, that wasn't a motion.
Not a motion.
Just a question, is the municipal utilities meeting that took place this afternoon, that's available for us to watch a video or listen
Yes.
to an audio, I assume?
I don't know, do you put it out on the audio, your meetings? Okay.
Why don't we just go ahead with that and let staff work with the utilities on this
No,
before.
I want to hear from the manager. He's here, he's ready to talk.
And we're basically almost all here except for O'Brien.
All right, John?
Should we vote on the other motion first?
Yeah. Roll call. Thank you, Julie.
Davis,
Aye.
Shoulders,
Aye.
Bagley, Osmus,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Abstain.
Nelson.
Aye.
So 6 ayes, 1 abstain.
All right, John?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I hadn't planned on speaking when I came here tonight, so appreciate the opportunity, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time debating what has been presented here tonight. But I will tell you that on the north side, as Administrator Valiant said, our ability to drill more wells is pretty much tapped out. On the south side, we have identified 8 locations for wells. There is 2 sites that have been developed on the northwest corner of that property, and the other 6 sites will be developed as we move forward, as the city grows and the utility needs additional wells for providing water to the community. To Mr. Bachman's comment, we worked very closely last year with the developer and with the city and with Mr. Bachman to make a project of this nature viable. However, through those discussions last year, what changed from last fall to this year is a Phase 2 stormwater pond. When that surfaced at the utility level, we questioned, where's that going? And are we going to preserve and protect our wells, as water is hard to come by in this community? We have basically 4 sites, 4 locations have been identified that will provide water in the volumes that we need for this community today and in the future. So we wanted to make sure that that was taken into consideration, the preservation of our ability to provide water to this community on Swanson Field South. So that's where we're at. I learned more tonight. I come tonight to the meeting here to become informed on where things are going. Jared provided additional information on the work so far that they looked at. From the utility perspective, we have reached out to our well consultant last week after we learned of this, and they are looking at twofold. One, they're looking at the parameter around the well sites, the 6 well sites that haven't been developed, how much room we need around those so that we can hit the aquifer in the approximate place that we need to get the most volume out of the wells. And also, what should a design criteria look like, basically how deep and how should it be designed to preserve the quality of water so we don't have contaminated water like you read about in the paper and other utilities. So that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. We have not said that it wouldn't work. We said we need to be cautious on how we proceed so we preserve the water of this community. So, and one last comment that I'll make, it was mentioned tonight that this 5.5 acre site where this housing is going to go does not impact the wells as it was noted that we agreed to it. We did. Through those discussions, we reached out to our wellhead protection consultant last year. We had looked at the ability to relocate the one well that is located along Willmar Avenue close to the casing that was talked about. And with the other one, we provided an easement around that well so we could get to it and develop it into a well someday when the time was right. So that's where we're at from utilities. This thing seemed to be going forward, project going forward without enough answers for us at utilities to be comfortable with to get behind this. So even today at the meeting, it was talked about that it's not that we're opposed to it, we just don't have enough information to support it while protecting our wells and the quality of water that we do have and enjoy in this community. So with that, any questions?
I don't know who was first, but Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any sense of how long it would take you to gather the information that you would need for this project?
We're hoping we'll have it from our consultant this week.
Okay.
So
And then-
our consultant understands the urgency of it and things are moving here, so we keep pushing him to make it a priority on his work list. So hopefully sooner than later.
I certainly hear a different tone tonight. I mean, tonight I'm hearing very clearly from you that utilities does not oppose this necessarily, but we're in a wait and see, let's gather more information and slow things down,
Yep.
which I can understand. When I listened to the Planning Commission last week, a Planning Commission member asked a yes or no, does the utilities oppose this or in favor of it? And it was a no. It was not wait and see.
How was the question asked? I guess I wasn't there. If the question was asked as, does the utility support this at this time? The answer would be no. Because even today, right now, tonight, if you were to ask me, I would say the answer to that is no because we don't have enough information.
Right. But
it's not that we're opposed to the project as a
right.
whole.
The key I'm hearing from you tonight very clearly is we don't have enough information. Let's take some time to gather that information.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Carl?
So, Mr. Herron, at the meeting this morning or this noon, it was mentioned that there's a potential for more wells by the dog park and Lions Park, and I see on our map here there is a potential well. Do we know? Could we put some wells there? Is that on an aquifer there, or is that just hoping?
I guess I'm not clear on the exact site you're talking about, but on Swanson Field Park itself, the wells that have been identified when the study was done run along they run north and south along the west boundary, and on the east side of the property, east side of the Stingers Field, there's another 4 wells that run along probably halfway between the ball field and the property line, and in line with the Centricare facilities that are there. There's 3 of them there, and there's one almost right in the middle of the plat that's being considered for sale right along Willmar Avenue. So, and that's the one last year when we were working with Aaron in the city here, that working with our wellhead consultant had indicated, well, we possibly have enough room behind the development to move that well to. So we said, okay, we can make this work. And now this year we find out the city's looking at a storm pond. We raised a red flag and said, what else is planned for this? We need to make sure that we preserve our ability to provide water to this city. So.
And so where different question then, where the proposed storm pond is on this handout,
Yeah.
that site does not have a well on it, as I read this.
There's probably one close on the west side. Looking at the map here tonight, this is the first time I saw the map.
Yeah,
But looking at the map, I know approximately where those wells are sited. Yeah, there's one probably fairly close to the west side of the pond that's identified there on that map.
Okay.
Anything else? Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. You know I have a great deal of respect for you and the utilities. It was very frustrating to hear kind of the negative way that this was brought forward, and I'm glad to hear that we're going to be working together with this. This project, I think, has great potential. It is not land that's being used for recreation right now. Obviously, we are concerned about making sure that we preserve what you need, but also I think this is a great opportunity for the city for some senior housing. The drawings that were shared, I think, help to understand how it's not going to hurt the track, or the walking path. It's not going to, and so we need to just keep working together. And I guess that's my message, is that I hope that we can continue to work together, not as adversaries, but with the goal for both of us to achieve what we want. So just want to say that and to say thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councilmember Nelson. I mean, I fully agree with that. I mean, community is small. We will accomplish more working together than we will,
Doug?
opposing.
Yes, Julie?
Mr. Herron, could you explain to me again, if you did, if the holding pond, if there is not a wellhead anywhere close to that second holding pond or the proposed one, how does that interfere with possibility of having a well in that proximity in the future?
Excellent question, Councilor Osmus. Where the test wells have been identified through research doesn't necessarily mean that that is the exact location where those wells will be drilled when the day comes. Aquifers moved to some degree. Also, they did not research to the point that they said, here's the optimal location for the well itself. The test holes that were drilled identified the potential for a well to be placed there, but if that diamond that's on your map or the notation on your map, that could move 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever the case may be when we actually start developing that well. So, is the pond in the way? We don't know that, as what was proposed here tonight. I can't answer that. What we ask our consultant, and I don't know if they have enough information to answer that question, but we asked a similar question to what you just asked, was what's the diameter around that test well that would give us the ability to make sure that when we develop that well, that we can hit the optimal location for the greatest amount of volume or water that we can draw out of it. So, did that help answer the question?
Oh, yes, it did.
Yeah.
Second question, what is the difference between the existing monitoring well and the potential well location?
The monitoring well was basically a test well that the Department of Health wanted to retain to monitor the aquifer in that area. So while the other 6 wells, 5 wells that aren't developed, had to be sealed and capped at the time, and 1 well was preserved to monitor the aquifer, to test and monitor the aquifer.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so unless there's more questions, I think, thank you, John, for.
Thank you.
I know you weren't ready to speak, but thank you. All right. And this will go to staff from the MUC and city to work it out until we have our hearing. All right? Okay, so, and I see we've got Connect Willmar initiative, but I don't think we're prepared to,
Well, we would have been prepared, but Mr. Box became ill today, so we would be moving that then probably, if we have time, to the council meeting on March 18th.
okay,
That's the plan right now.
all right? So, unless there's any other business, I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.